guys, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a bit of a different video for you guys that I hope you're going to enjoy. It's one set 4 ways, so I'll be making 4 different cards from one stamp set. So if you guys are like me, you may have been participating in Kathy Rakusin's The Daily Marker 30-Day Coloring Challenge. And that is a challenge on Instagram where we try to color at least one image every day, just to take that time for yourself and just to practice your skills. And I always end up with all these images that I've colored, and I keep them in this little dish here so that I have images ready to create some quick and easy cards, but they tend to pile up in that bowl and I don't always make cards out of them, so I wanted to utilize these images today. So all of these images are from the Mama Elephant Sunday Stroll stamp set, which features this adorable little family and an assortment of pets. It's really chock full of images. So I have already stamped and colored and die cut these out, so there's no coloring in this video today, but I have tons of playlists for different coloring mediums that I can link you to in the cards at the top of the video, so you can definitely check those out if you're interested. So I've just separated them into 4 different piles so that I have an idea of what I could use on each card. I've also made a pile of trees and a pile of clouds that I die cut with the matching dies. So jumping right into card number 1, I have cut down a piece of MFT snow cone cardstock to 4 1/4 wide by 3 inches tall, and I've also die cut 2 grassy hillsides using the Mama Elephant Landscape Trio dies. And I've put the hillside that's going to be in the forefront in my MISTI, and I'm going to be stamping a sentiment. I did have to pull my sentiments from some other sets since there are no sentiments included in the Sunday Stroll. So I'm stamping out "Together is a Nice Place to Be" from the Mama Elephant Cross My Heart set, and I'm using some Lawn Fawn Jalapeno ink. And since that word "together" is quite large, I did have to stamp that a couple of times to get some good coverage. Also, this ink does get a little smoother as it dries back into the paper. So now I can start to build my scene. I'm going to take that darker green hillside and I'm going to adhere that first to the card with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. And I'm just going to get an idea of where I want that to be by placing the forefront in front of it for just a second, and I can smooth that into place. And then I'm going to adhere the lighter green hillside right on top of that. So there are a couple different ways to create the illusion of depth, even if you're adhering things flat to the card. And one of those ways is to put things that are darker in the background. As you can see, layering that darker green hill behind the lighter hill makes it look as though it's cast in shadow, and it immediately pushes it into the background. Also, what looked like tiny trees when they were laying on my work surface, once they're added into the hills at varying levels and layered with the clouds, it makes them immediately look like they are actually large trees, just far off in the distance from the viewer's perspective. It draws the eye in so that you can almost imagine that beyond that hill there are more hills and more trees, and just creates a feeling of vastness to your scene. And that's going to continue as we begin to layer our ducks in the forefront, which will push everything in the scene back even farther to the eye. So I thought it would be fun to create a little row with this family of ducks, kind of follow the leader style. So I've added the daddy duck, which I've colored to look like a mallard, to the front, and I've placed the mama right behind him, and then I'm going to start adding these little babies. And I'll set an acrylic block on those to hold them down a little bit tighter to the paper as they dry in place. And I'm making sure not to add them the same distance apart, because in families there are always those who stick close to mama, and there are always those who are kind of getting a little unruly and out of line, or those who are off in La La Land daydreaming, or just the little stragglers, and it just adds to the whole story in your head. It gives them a little more personality to be a little bit separate or a little bit apart. So for my card base, I'm taking another piece of MFT's Snow Cone cardstock, and I'll be using some pattern papers from the American Crafts Everyday collection. I got this at Target. And I'm just going to add some Tombow Mono multi-glue to my first pattern, which is this really pretty plaid. And I'll just press that into place. And now I'm going to add a little bit of a floral print, and I have die cut that with the Pretty Pink Posh Stitch Borders 1 die. And I'm just going to add a little bit more Tombow Mono to the back of that, and I'll adhere it down towards the bottom of my card. I'm just going to grab my focal panel so I can make sure that I have that right where I want it, and then I'll smooth that down. I'm going to take some Scotch 3M foam tape that I buy in big rolls from Amazon because I love this stuff so much and I use so much of it. And I'm going to add that to the back of my focal panel so that it's really well supported. And then I'll just peel off those backer sheets. And I will pop that up right over my card front. I don't know about you guys, but those ducks really make me smile. For the inside of my card, I'm going to take that little XOXO from the Cross My Heart sentiment set from Mama Elephant and the little duckling from the Sunday Stroll, and I'm going to ink that up in some Lawn Fawn Mermaid ink. And then I'm going to ink up just the XOXO one more time since it was quite a bit thinner and lighter than the duckling, and just stamp that down a second time. And that is going to complete card 1. For card 2, I'm starting with the same elements, except for instead of the dark green hillside, I switched to the Mama Elephant Grassy Border Trio. And I'm going to take this lighter green hillside and put that in my MISTI so that I can stamp my sentiment. And this one comes from the Sunday Sentiment stamp set from Mama Elephant, and I'll be inking that up once again in the Lawn Fawn Jalapeno ink. I wanted to challenge myself today to use as minimal supplies as possible, so I will be using the same exact color cardstocks and inks throughout the video for all 4 cards. It's really only the sentiments that I had to pull from several different sets because I really wanted sentiments that would suit the scenes that I was creating. So our scene for card 2 is going to take up the entire card front, so I'm going to build it right on my card base. And I'm going to begin by adhering this grassy border to the card with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. And I'm going to pop up my lighter green hillside with some foam tape. So that's another way you can create dimension on a card, is to just add foam tape and pop things up. So I'm laying out my images to get a general idea of how I want to build my scene. And then I'm going to add that fire hydrant to the card with some Tombow Mono multi-glue because I want that to be kind of a little bit of a background element. And once I have that adhered, I'm going to pull off my boy and girl and the 2 dogs and add some foam tape to the back of them. And I'm going to take this red twine and use that to create my dog leashes. So there is a dog leash image in this stamp set which you could use, but I thought it would be too difficult to stamp on the textured grass border. So I decided to go ahead and do it this way. I thought it would add a fun and unexpected element and just add a nice little pop of color to it as well. So I just trimmed down a couple pieces and I'm adding that right to the back of the foam tape to the 2 dogs, and then adding it with some Tombow Mono to the boy and girl, and then just sticking a piece of foam tape on top to kind of sandwich it in there. And then I can go ahead and arrange my little characters on my scene, and I'm just going to make sure that that twine is pulled taut because I want it to be as if these 2 little doggies saw each other from across the park and they really wanted to say hello, so they pulled their owners toward each other. I'm adding in a few trees here and there to fill out my scene, And then I realized that that one tree that was next to the boy matched his hat too closely, so I went ahead and switched that to kind of spread that color throughout the scene a little bit better. So I moved a brighter green one towards the back of him. And I'm just tucking those back behind the darker green grass with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. I'll add a couple of clouds in the sky, just scattering them here and there across the card. I'm even going to layer one of these smaller ones over the larger one just to add some more depth. And the sky just seemed like it was missing something to me, so I went and pulled this little butterfly that I had put in the pile with the little girl for a different card, but I decided to go ahead and use it on this one just to kind of draw your eye upward and fill in that empty space. For the inside of this card, I'm taking that little butterfly and the butterfly trail from the Sunday Stroll stamp set, and then I'm taking an additional sentiment from the Sunday Sentiments, and I'm going to stamp that in Lawn Fawn Mermaid ink again, and it reads, "I am so glad to have met you," which I think goes very well with our scene on the front. And that is going to complete card 2. For card 3, I have die cut another piece of snow cone cardstock with the Avery L finish frame dies. And I'm going to start by stamping my sentiment from the Mama Elephant in My Heart set with some Lawn Fawn Mermaid ink. And I'm going to build my scene around the sentiment. So that's why I wanted to do it first. So I'm just inking that up a couple times to get a really good impression. And I'm going to adhere my dark green grassy border to the card with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. And then I'm going to layer my lighter green hillside right over top of that. I just cut down a little sliver of that. And then I also used the Avery L Finish Frames die on both the grass and the hillside so that it would look like one complete scene and have that great detail all around the edge. And then I'm going to tuck my mailbox over on the right hand side, and then I will glue my little girl down on the left, and I'm going to make it look as though she is carrying a letter to the mailbox, and I want this little kitty to be her little friend that is following her to the mailbox. And I'll set an acrylic block over top of them to help them dry in place. I'm going to add this little letter with the red heart seal in her hand. I'll add a couple of clouds to the sky. And I'm going to use this little dragonfly to complete our scene. I thought that would be something fun and different. For my card base, I've got another piece of MFT snow cone cardstock. And then I have die cut 2 pattern papers with the Mama Elephant Pika frames. These are the largest 2 dies in that set. So the largest one will cut out a paper that will cover the entire card front with a nice stitched border. And then the second largest one has a postage stamp edge, which I thought was really cool and tied in well with our little mailbox scene. So I just glued both of those down with some more Tombow Mono, and then I'm going to take my focal panel and add some foam tape to the back of that. And then I'll just peel off those backer sheets and pop that right up in the center of our card. For the inside, I'm taking another sentiment from the Mama Elephant in My Heart stamp set, and I'll use the butterfly trail and the little envelope with the heart seal from Sunday Stroll for my images. I'm inking those up with the Lawn Fawn Mermaid ink once again, and my sentiment reads, "Miss you more than just a little," which I thought went well since she's obviously sending a letter to someone that lives far away. And that is going to complete card 3. For card 4, I wanted to do a circle focal panel, so I used the Lawn Fawn Stitched Circle Stackables to die cut both my grasses and the background. And then I am stamping out my sentiment from the Mama Elephant Sunday Sentiments, and I'm using the jalapeno ink from Lawn Fawn again. And I stamped that 3 times since the font is quite small and I wanted to make sure it was bold and legible. I'm going to take my darker grassy border and adhere that straight down to my focal panel with some Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. And I'll adhere my lighter green hillside right over top of that. I'm going to take my last 2 trees and adhere those down on the left side of the card. I'm going to tuck the larger one back behind the grassy border, and then I will take the smaller one and tuck that behind the lighter green hillside. And I'm just trying to figure out where exactly I want to place that, but I decided to keep those both on the left to balance out the little boy that I'm going to place on the right. I think he's such a cutie. Adding a couple more clouds to the sky, I'll use one large and one small. So that last cloud over on my work surface is the only thing that I did not end up using from that big pile of images from the beginning. Not bad. So in this little scene, I'm imagining that this boy was out walking his pet iguana through the park, and the iguana got away from him and ended up making a little turtle friend. I don't know about you guys, but I always have to make up stories about the scenes on my cards. I guess that's the writer in me. So for my card base, I'm once again using some snow cone cardstock, and I'm adhering a couple pattern papers down to my card base, and these are all from that American Crafts Everyday collection. I used the Lawn Fawn Stitch Journaling card die to die cut this aqua polka dot piece to center in my card. And then I'm going to take a scrap of the plaid paper that we used on card 1 and just layer that right across the middle. I'll grab my focal panel and add some Scotch 3M foam tape to the back of that. Always like to have some dimension on my cards. And this stuff is great since it's so low profile, it goes through the mail with no trouble. So I'll just peel off those backer sheets and pop that up right in the center of my card. For the inside of my card, I'm taking another phrase from the Sunday Sentiment stamp set, and I'll take the little iguana from the Sunday Stroll, and once again inking with the Lawn Fawn Mermaid ink. And it reads, "I think you're all sorts of wonderful," which is exactly what I would imagine a little boy would say to his pet iguana, or the pet iguana would say to his new turtle friend. So that is going to complete our 4th and final card. And here is another look at all 4 cards that we created today from a bunch of images that were just laying in a bowl unused. You may have noticed in the title of this video that it said episode 2, and that is because I did create another video a couple months ago where I made 4 cards out of 1 stamp set, and I'm actually thinking of making this a monthly series on my channel. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you have any suggestions for a stamp set that you'd like to see featured in 4 ways, please leave that in the comments below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Here's a couple extra videos you may also be interested in, including episode 1 of 1 Set 4 Ways. And if you're not already a subscriber to my channel, you can do that by just clicking on my photo right there on the screen. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.